Yeah, welcome to Mental Perspectives, episode 5. Today we're talking to V, and we talk about the topic of furries and the furry community. And as I personally have no idea about that, I'm very hyped to learn about it. So yeah, I'll give you the microphone, and please tell me, who are you, and like the general about section of yourself.
General about section? I don't even know what the general about section of me really is. Well, I mean, just throw it out there, I guess. My name's V. That's what most people call me. On Twitch, I have a mirror V because V was already taken, and I couldn't figure out another way to write V, so I had to cheat and use another name that I steal. I have made the mistake of working 2 jobs, so don't do that. I don't really stream. The only thing really that people will know me from is I write. But one of the jobs I do is I write for a game at the moment. But it's nothing really like what's the word? It's not furry related, so it doesn't really matter. It's just people might know me from it, but it's like not even done yet, and I'm still doing it, and like it's kind of niche, and I don't really talk about it very much because it doesn't matter. The only thing I use it as is throw at people because it's funny. Anyway, off topic. Yeah, I don't know anything else interesting about myself.
So I find writing about a game quite interesting already, or in a game. So you're working for a game design studio then, or is it a side project or?
It's kind of both. I'm working for a studio that is writing. Well, I'm writing. I'm writing dialogue for parts of dialogue and the actions for these scenes. It's closer to resembling to a visual novel, but it's not. It's 3D. It's not 2D. It's I don't really know what else to say with it other than it's a 3D visual novel.
I mean, that's already pretty cool.
It's interesting. I'll give it that, but I don't usually go too much into detail about it because the content of it really, it's not. It's in short, I don't think it's stream appropriate, so I'm not going to go through it very much. Also, you didn't change the name on the.
Did I not?
Change the name. No.
Fuck no. I didn't click save. Now it should be saved.
Yeah. Other than that, like the other thing I do is I work in an office. I'm an office administrator. I pretty much do most of the admin work for the company because I pretend to know what I'm doing, and they seem to think that I know what I'm doing. So I keep going with it.
Yeah, I know that trick.
Other than that, though. Only other thing I would consider interesting is that I hunt way too much for achievements in roguelites. To the point where I've gotten this itch recently, where I say recently, it's been like a year and a half now, where I just go through roguelites and just collect all the achievements. That's it. And then I stop playing the game. It's just. I don't know.
I get that. I've been doing some achievement hunting myself, so I get it.
Yeah, that's all. That's it though. That's all I can say about myself.
All right, perfect.
Other than that, though, I'm 22. That's another thing. I guess I'll throw it in.
Yeah, that's also interesting. Definitely. So how did you start, or like how you no, let me start in a different way. You told me you're a furry. How did that start? How did you become a furry?
I think it started when I was like 10 or 11 years old. Because whilst I was in secondary school, I don't know why or when or what the reason was, but I started randomly watching My Little Pony, and then that kind of kicked off on its own thing. Didn't really know about furries or bronies around that time, but I only really watched My Little Pony shit for like 5 years, and then I stopped completely. I don't even look into it now. I just know pretty much everything, and then that's it. I don't really care about it very much. If something interesting happens with it, I'll be like, oh, that's cool, and then continue on with my day. Like I don't really care that much about it, but it's what got me started, I would say. And from that is with these sort of things, like people coming into these kind of communities, like because I was so young, I was very new to the whole. I was still sort of new to the internet as a whole. So obviously, because I was only fucking 10 or 11, whatever. So, it gets into the whole shebang of like figuring out like people making shit like OCs and all that, and like, but that's like I'll talk about that later because I could go on and on about OCs. Like,
okay,
it's the best. I could just keep going. But yeah, yeah, I got started because I watched My Little Pony, and then I stopped watching it at some point. But that was like a catalyst for liking more stuff that was furry related, other than pony stuff. But yeah, I've just kept this furry stuff. I just liked furries ever since then, and I sort of blame Disney as well because stuff like Zootopia exists. They obviously know what they're doing some of the times. I swear to God.
Would you say that there's always a connection between like, or like not always, but that My Little Pony and like and know about like the whole brony scene, is that inherently connected to furries, or is it just close enough that it has some overlap?
I think it's just really close. I don't think it overlaps. I just think it's super close. Like you can definitely know a furry who's never watched My Little Pony or something, or vice versa. You know, you could definitely know a person who's a brony who doesn't partake in any of the furry shebang or whatever. So, they're not 100% connected, but like they're very close. Like, if I'd have a guess, like 95% of the people that watch My Little Pony are also furries. The other 5% are either kids or just aren't furries.
Okay.
I don't really consider like kids that are like 8 years old to be a furry because, you know, they're 8.
Exactly.
Their opinions don't matter. Children.
Children just do things. They don't necessarily have reasons for it. Fair.
Yeah.
So how do you now? Let's start slower. Like, how did you get into the scene then, or like into like? Did you just randomly, or not randomly, but did you just decide to buy a fursuit at some point? Do you have your fursuit, or is it?
The whole thing with fursuit doesn't really necessarily mean you're a furry or anything like that.
Okay.
A furry is someone who just likes anthropomorphic creatures, so animals with human characteristics.
Okay.
That's it. There's nothing else to it. That is the minimum requirement to be a furry. Has nothing to do with fursuits.
Okay, fair.
That's a completely other thing. I don't have a fursuit. Not everyone who's a furry has a fursuit. But to be honest, the only furries you will see, to be fair, are people with fursuits because they're like the most they're the most out there that you'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you would recognize someone in a fursuit. You will probably not see.
You would recognize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so much easier to recognize someone in a fursuit with their persona or whatever. It doesn't need to be a fursuit. They could, a fucking weeb or something. No, a person who likes anime can have their own OC to do some anime, and they can have their own little character they can dress up as, cosplay as their own character or whatever. So, anyway, so just because you're a furry doesn't mean you have a fursuit. Just because you're a furry doesn't mean you want to fuck a fucking furry character. Like, it's just not. They're not related. It's just what people associate it with because it's just so. It's just really common. I'll give it that. It's super common. I personally would not get a fursuit. I think it's way too much effort. It's expensive as all hell. And I would prefer just looking at the stuff people make. Some people make absolutely insane things. There's a person called Beauty of the Base who has this fursuit that has these speakers around their body. And when they talk, they have like a mechanical voice that comes through those speakers. It's super cool. I don't know how they've done it, but they are super good at what the hell they've done. I haven't looked too into them, to be fair, again, because I don't really partake in the fursuit stuff. I don't really look into it too much. I just see some people do these cool things. I'm like, wow, that's very cool. And then I stopped looking at it like a couple hours later. I don't really look too far into it. Um,
Okay,
but yeah,
so
again,
that's something that I didn't know. Like the whole, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, you notice people wearing a fursuit and you think, oh yeah, that must be furries. So I
yeah,
connected the idea of a fursuit with furries. But okay, so just liking, I think you named it anthropomorphic creatures is the minimum
yeah.
requirement. Okay, fair.
Pretty much. You don't need a persona either. That doesn't make you a furry.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't actually make you a furry for having a persona, oddly enough. But I mean, it probably would.
Yeah.
It's just, just because you have a persona doesn't. Well, sorry. Just because I'll say it like this: because you've made a character who
Mm-hmm.
is a furry,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean you are a furry. It's the only requirement is if you like anthropomorphic creatures, so animals with human characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it doesn't, or it doesn't really count if it's like some anime girl with cat ears or something. Like that's not really, it doesn't count.
Okay.
In my opinion, people have different opinions on this,
Oh,
but I think it's just as a basic sort of thing. People who like anthropomorphic creatures are a furry. That's the simplest and easiest way I think people understand it.
mhm.
I guess it just you lean towards furry. I guess a little bit if you have some anime character with animal ears or whatever. Like it just leans into it, but it doesn't make you a furry. Like yeah, it's like saying it's like how you said earlier where where bronies and furries they sort of lean towards each other, but they're not. That doesn't they don't equal each other.
Okay.
Um, similar case to that, just a lot less extreme, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you get out of being a furry? Like what is it for you? Like what is the benefit for you? Is it just something like that you like, or is there something more to it?
It's different for everyone.
Mhm.
I know that I don't really know my girlfriend's perspective on this
Mhm.
because she said she isn't a furry for like a year and a half of dating me, and I just sitting here telling her she's completely she's just a closet furry and just
Okay.
doesn't want to tell me. I don't know really what it means to her other than like a sort of escapism.
Mhm.
Uh, I guess would be the closest thing for her. I don't know because I haven't asked her, and she's asleep right now, so I
Mhm.
can't ask her.
Fair.
For me, it's kind of an escapism, but
Mhm.
it's not really the focus of it. I just enjoy making these different things. Funny enough, out of all the characters I've actually made, I only have two furries. Um, so most all the other characters aren't furries or just something else or something or whatever. Sorry, that's a lie. I have three, not two. I
Okay.
forgot one of them existed. Now I
Okay.
feel bad for them. But no. I personally, I have a large story and like a fat chunky world um, that I've got that it's not written up, but a large chunk of it is written, if that makes sense. Like I
Yeah.
have a lot of notes on it, but I've never actually written out as like a full story. And it's that this is kind of my focus of the whole furry thing. Um, this is kind of where most of the resources, I guess, would be the best word, goes into it.
Mhm.
Um, for me, just this creating this world that I've made, um, and pushing uh, this character and the other ones that I have into this world and creating whatever the hell I've done around it. That's what it is for me. It's nothing really else for me. I don't really do too much else with it. I have people, I commission people to draw my characters, obviously,
Yeah.
as most other people would. Um, and I get art a bunch of the time. The only thing that I can guess, well, I say guess, the only other thing I could really say about it is like, you don't have to do anything with it. You
Mhm.
can like it and then just do nothing with it. It's completely fine. Some people go way above and beyond and make their whole life about it, which, again, completely fine.
Mhm.
They're not hurting anyone, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, just some people are a bit. Yeah, I'll be fair. Some people are a bit too pushy with it and like push it onto other people. I don't really like it when people do that. Um, keeping keeping it to yourself is probably the best thing that people should be doing. And also in events like conventions and shit, they should keep it with each other. They shouldn't do it with other things. I can mention a bunch of things that people have done in the past at conventions that are kind of shitty.
Okay.
But I don't know if you if you want me to go into that or not.
Before we get into that, so let me sum it up to make sure I understood it correctly. So it is for you the interesting thing, or like for you the thing about it is that it's like about creating worlds, like a bit kind of role playish. Write a story around it, create a world around it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it's kind of an art perspective.
Yeah, I write, as obviously I write for a game company. I keep forgetting the word for it. But otherwise, I write my own stuff or stuff with my girlfriend. And this is kind of the part where I was saying like I'm pretty sure she's a furry, but she never really says she's a furry. But considering we write a world together, and I have a furry character and she interacts with them and she likes the furry character, I'm just sort of like, I'm pretty sure you're a furry. I think she made a furry character at some point, but it was really just an adaptation of her own character. So I'm not. It's not like a what's the word? It's not like she's made a new character that's only a furry. She's just taken her own character and adapted it as a furry. But it doesn't, it is just kind of like the way she does her characters is a lot of her characters, or at least, sorry, one specific character has a lot of different variations. She has more characters, but one of them specifically has a lot of different variations that she goes through. These variations are usually, from my experience, down to her current life. Or stuff that she wants to keep hold of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. I don't know if that's how she sees it, or if I'm even right at all. I could be completely wrong, to be fair, but this is just how I see it from my perspective towards me looking to her. I don't know how she sees hers, how her perspective, her perspective is towards my characters, but yeah, that's just mine.
Okay. So we got a question in chat. Is it like a hobby for you, or is it more of a identification? Like, do you identify as a furry, or would you say it's just this thing that I really enjoy in my pastime?
It's different for everyone. I would say it's a bit of both. Obviously, I'm not going to go around in real life with a fursuit. I don't do any of that shit. Just don't find it. I just don't like it. It's just too much work for someone like me. I'm really lazy sometimes, and this is one of those things where I just get super lazy on. I'm not going to push it onto people. I do in the character actually on the side is also called V. Don't ask me why. I can't tell you because I don't know. I just had to have a placeholder name for a character, and this was the placeholder name, and it's become the permanent name. So, oops, I guess.
Okay.
I like it though. It's stuck. Yeah, I like it. I don't know. Anyway, I started hating it after Cyberpunk came out, by the way, because everyone was like,
I can imagine.
V, how's V? I was like, oh, fuck off. I've had this name for like since I was like 16, 15, so.
Well, now you get me with the Rocket League kid. That's still my name.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's not my name. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. For me, online, I prefer people seeing me like this, or as one of the other two main OCs that I have that I use. That aren't furry. They're not furries. So, just wanted to throw that out there. They're not furries. I only have 3 furry OCs, and I have like a lot of other characters that just aren't related to furries whatsoever. But online, I do like people seeing this first. Mostly because I prefer knowing when people are against furries before actually knowing them too well, if that makes sense. If someone is
Absolutely.
against furries, I would just rather not deal with them, just remove myself from the situation because I can't be asked to deal with it. It's too much effort. I'm lazy, and the person will hopefully eventually figure out that their opinion is stupid, and you can't just be against someone for liking something. You can, or sorry, I should say that you can't act out against someone for not liking something. Is what I should say. Obviously, you can be like, "Oh, I don't like furries." Okay, I like furries. So we have different opinions, but I respect your opinion, and vice versa, or whatever.
But I get a lot of that is coming from just a point of ignorance, like a point of not knowing what it means to be a furry. Like as I said in the beginning, I had
Yeah.
no idea like what is the qualifying measurement to be a furry.
As far as I'm aware, a lot of people think that being a furry is either this fursuit thing that you said,
Yeah.
or people wanting to fuck them. I
Yeah.
don't really understand the perspective on that. On the second one specifically, I understand it on the first one. I don't understand it on the second one because I know a large amount of people who don't want to fuck them. So
Well,
I don't really get it. So yeah,
but that's definitely public perception, I would say. Like the
yeah,
whole okay, furries are people that like to fuck animals. That is, I do realize that is not true. I know that, but that is a lot of the public perception, I would say, and I'm glad we're talking about it to clarify that.
yeah. And I'm personally, I would say I'm completely fine with talking about it
Yeah.
because like I've already said so much about it before in the past that at this point I'm just like, yeah. Anyway, so we don't do this.
Fair.
So it's super easy for me to talk about, but it's more, I don't want to say too much that isn't like friendly for content, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to push too far into the area is all.
Well, we can talk about things on a meta level. Like as long as we're not getting explicit, I think we're fine.
Yeah, I don't want to touch into the face stuff because it's a bit
Yeah,
weird, and
sure.
uh, I wouldn't mind talking about it. It's just I don't want to, I don't want to push the content.
Yeah, it might be a bit too much. Just it is
Yeah.
just like the general statement of being a furry doesn't mean you want to fuck animals. I think that's an important statement to put out there.
Yeah, definitely. Because funny enough, my two closest friends, one of them I've known since I was like, since I was actually like 12 or 13, so around the time that I was actually watching My Little Pony. And up until now, he's not a furry. He's not against furries. Me and him take the piss out of furries because I think it's funny. But he understands that you can't just be like, oh my god, you're a furry. I can't believe it. Oh, you can't just do that. And he's not a furry. He would never be a furry. He doesn't like the idea of it, but he doesn't push this negative sort of perspective onto people.
Yeah.
So I respect him for it. The other person I do know who's close to me is a furry, but she's more. She doesn't really say anything about it. And to be fair, like the only time you would know that she's a furry is if you asked her directly. So you wouldn't know at all. She doesn't have like a furry profile picture or anything. She didn't have an OC until recently because I kind of, in quotations, told her that I kind of have a plan with our little Discord server that we have to get some of our characters to have little emotes so that we could use them because we don't have any actual emotes. We have we only have a emote for booping the pig snoot. That's it. The other ones are just silly ones that aren't ours, so we want to replace them with our ones. And obviously, I was like, get an OC so I can have a reference to for this person, so they could draw some emotes. They did have a persona before.
Yeah.
They just didn't have it drawn, or they didn't have them drawn. I should stop saying it. They didn't have them drawn. So I made her get them drawn, kind of. But it's just a funny story. Sorry,
Yeah,
I go off topic sometimes.
it's all good. It's very interesting. So yeah, let me get back on chat real quick. Pretty much the image is damaged because of a minority within the community, I guess. Was like
Yeah,
one of the statements. I would.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I would say a good like 10-15%, maybe 20% of people who are furries are just so unbelievably bad. And I only know like 3 people in my life
Yeah.
that I talk to that are furries, and like the 25 other people that I know just aren't furries, would never associate themselves with as such. And I completely understand it. It's because of this fucking dumb minority of people who some of the things they do just really makes me want to have brain damage instead. Uh, I, it really does. It really is annoying. But um, the community, the community itself are really welcoming. But it's just some people are just so bad, and it's really painful, to be fair. Like I would scream emotional damage at the top of my lungs.
Is it about elitism? Like, is there elitism in the furry community?
I don't know what that means.
So basically, people saying like, if you don't have that and that, you're not a real furry.
Elitism. Oh.
Elitism, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I see. I could understand what you meant through your accent. I don't actually know, to be fair. I know that there are some groups that are a bit funny with like they've made like a species or whatever, and they're like, hey, you can't use the species. If you want to use this species, you have to pay, which is a bit weird. I don't really understand that, but again, they've made it. It's their stuff. I guess they're allowed to do that, but it's a bit weird. Like, I guess I don't know. I find it as a bit of a grey area. It's like an NFT.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So they created a species?
Yeah, so there was these guys, I don't know what it was really that they made. It was these things called a protogen or something. These like mechanical looking guys, something, I don't remember. I don't really know what they are. But they call it a closed species, right?
Okay.
And the best way I can describe it is NFTs, but kind of worse, in my opinion. I think it's a little worse than NFTs. The only difference is it's not massively expensive, I guess. It's not like 20 billion fucking Deutschmarks or whatever. So, so that's all I got with that. But some people just do it a bit. It's just a bit weird. I don't know. I don't really want to talk too much about it because I don't know everything about it. I don't want to say something that's not true. I just want to say that there's this thing called closed species. They're a bit weird. I wouldn't interact with these furries personally, because it's a little fucked up in my opinion. It's a species you made, and you're saying no one can use it because you decided to, which is a bit weird. I mean, I've made like 3 species, but I don't really tell people not to use it. I just tell people to follow the formula. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. I say I made 3 species. That's a lie. I've only really made 1. I shouldn't say I've made 3. I've only really made 1.
The formula? What does that mean?
So whenever people make a species, they sort of have our follow the formula of a structure of a human. Bipedal creature, 2 arms, 5 limbs, whatever. I don't know. That kind of formula is what I mean. So the species that I made, the only formula I tell people to follow is the creature has to be a form. They have to be purple, basically. That's the only thing I care about, because the species. Don't do what I did, by the way. I'm just saying this. Don't do this, because this was a terrible idea. Not because it was bad, because it's way too much work. And working too much is stupid. No. I made a species where they could be literally any fucking thing they want to. They could be a furry. They could be like a four-armed tentacle fucking thing. They could have fucking, I don't know. They could have fucking wooden pegs for arms. I don't care as long as they're purple. I don't care. So that was a mistake to make a species that could literally be anything. So because I have a bunch of lore in it, but I'm not going to go through it because it's not really furry related, and it's about furries, and this is something that I made it when I was a kid, and well, I kind of have to keep it. I'm too far into it, or I can't just throw it away. And I have characters around it, and I'm just like, oh no, what have I done?
Okay, that was definitely interesting. The whole species thing is also a thing I've never heard about.
It's not really. People don't really talk about it too much. Again, because it's a bit weird. It's on the side that people shouldn't really go into. To be fair, like, fuck closed species. That's my opinion on it.
But even open species, I had no idea that there's like. I mean, I picture that people would say, okay, my OC is based on a fox or something, but
yeah,
I didn't realize that there's more.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, people just make species. It just happens. Like, I know there's a species called Dutch angel dragons. I don't really know anything about them. It's something you'd see a lot in if you look in the fursuit community, you'll probably find it in 5 minutes because they're really popular. But I think they might be a close species, but I don't actually know this. I don't know.
Okay, fair.
So I'm not going to talk about that because I just don't know about it. But people make species all the time. They don't have to be a furry to make a species, obviously, but it's the only real thing I can think of that happens commonly in a community that people make species. I can only really think of it happening in the furry community a lot. I don't know about it in other communities all that much. I mean, you don't have to be in a community to make a species, I guess. So, it's the same as people making a story and they had to come up with a villain, so they made a bad species or something. I don't know.
Fair. Okay, another question from chat. What are you doing with these personas? Are you acting like them, or are you just writing about them, I assume, and thinking about their characteristics?
I'm not really doing anything with them besides the story that I write. I don't really do anything with them. I just have them as a front-facing picture that I like people to look at because I get art from them. I think the art is very cool, so obviously I use the art.
I would agree, yeah.
Other than that, I don't really do anything with them. I have them. I can talk about other people who are furries or aren't furries, and like say about them. My character does this and that. And other things. People usually have characters that depict themselves or a part of their lives, or just something they prefer seeing themselves as, or it can be anything really. I think furries is a lot of how people perceive themselves and how and I guess their identity. Yeah. There's a lot of that in the furry community. There's a lot of that in even anime communities as well.
Yeah.
I would say. But okay, I don't really touch on them so very much. So I don't actually 100% know about it. But this, as far as what I've heard from different communities, a lot of the anime stuff people make is just how they perceive themselves as well. Especially people like artists who make they draw their perception of themselves. So, pretty much the same thing as that. Just a furry. That's it. It's not really.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty much just that same thing, basically, just furry.
If we have any artists in chat, can you tell me if you made basically a character and how you perceive yourself?
I know my girlfriend has done this because she is an artist.
Okay.
And the character that I mentioned that she has that she changes a lot is the one that she perceives herself as. So, yeah.
So you're writing about it. Are you like publishing too, or is it a story that you write for yourself?
I do want to publish it, but the issue that I have with it is that I don't really know of a good place to put it, and
Yeah.
places that I've wanted to put it, I've just not really liked the place, or and I'll be honest, it wouldn't have frequent updates, so it would be really hard for people to follow. I think I personally would find it hard to follow.
Okay.
I don't really want to put something out there that's like really not easy to follow. So I'd rather pre-write everything before, or pre-write a lot of it
Yeah.
before I do anything. And that will probably not be anytime soon, because I've rewrote the beginning like 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
because I've just been unhappy with it. Because it is really hard. It is a lot harder than you think to have a character wake up in a place they don't know with 3 of their limbs being replaced with mechanical ones. So, because you kind of have to get the idea of someone who's not able to control mechanical things very well because they have prosthetics instead of their actual limbs. And also, they're very young. So, you have to take all these factors into account that I don't have personal experience in. So, that's it's a bit awkward, but I'm trying to get through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you plan on making it a book, or is it more like a
I don't
blog
really
that
know.
you then put your whole thing in?
I don't really know, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure yet. It's still kind of early.
Okay.
Um, in the whole process. I wouldn't really start thinking about it until I was sure that I was going to get like until I know that I have a lot of content ready and I know that I want to do more immediately. I don't really want to look into it. The closest thing I thought of doing anything with was putting it on like an app where people write a lot, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really do anything though. I just put it somewhere for people to read. It doesn't really do anything with it.
Okay.
The only thing this has really gotten me is the writing job.
Oh, fair.
So fair enough. It's gotten me somewhere. So uh, I think um, after the whole writing thing is done with this game developer,
Yeah.
things might change from there, but I'm not 100% sure. So I guess I'll just have to see what happens after that. It also means I have a lot more free time to write. So
I
yeah,
mean, it's already pretty cool that you got a job out of that. Because
I
like
think it was
it sounds like
pretty
writing
happy.
is your passion.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I'm not good at drawing, but holy shit, I will write anything for you pretty much. I'm okay. I say anything. I wouldn't write anything. Maybe
Fair.
not anything, but I'd write a lot. Just keep your
Sure.
weird stuff to yourself.
Absolutely.
um, yeah. I think it's super cool that I got a job out of it. I do go to people that are my friends, and I take the piss out of the fact that I got a job to write
I can see
to
that.
write very unfamily friendly content using family friendly content. So yeah, it works.
Mhm.
A job is a job,
Yeah.
especially if I like doing it. So yeah, I can't complain. And again, I get to make fun of the people who are complete degenerates because I am now the top tier degenerate, and I can just
Fair.
give them the content they've been longing for years. Okay, yeah.
I mean, why not?
Digress out of
It's
the way.
definitely something interesting to do.
It's fun. So yeah.
Okay, so you also told me that you tried, or you're doing your best to stay away from the community. How did that come?
Yeah, because of so a lot of the things with the furry community is just not stuff that I vibe with very well.
Okay.
Um, I may be a very in the middle of introvert and extrovert kind of person, where sometimes I'm super extroverted and I will just continue to talk and I won't shut the fuck up. and other times I don't want you to talk to me. Please go away. Um, it flips
Yeah.
in and out. It's not really a mood swing. It's just sometimes I feel like this some days, sometimes I feel like this other days. It's not really mood swings. Um,
I feel
but
that I do have days where I don't really feel like talking to people too.
yeah, um, I can definitely change back into a more extroverted uh, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
usually, if I'm not talking to people, I will become introverted. If I'm talking to people, I will become extroverted. That's just kind of how it works. I mean, obviously that's how it works, but
Yeah. Sure.
um, but like yeah, it's a bad explanation, but whatever. I can't be asked. Um, so the whole thing with me staying away from the community is just that it's not that I've had bad experiences. That's not really it.
Okay.
The thing is just that I'm just not very. I just don't really care very much, to put it simply.
Hmm.
I have my own things, my own devices that I focus on. But when it comes to the community as a whole, uh, to be fair, if I was offered a fursuit to go to a convention, I would probably do it because I think it'd be really funny.
Yeah.
Um, but otherwise, I wouldn't actively seek it. Can't be asked because it's effort, and I really don't want to just go and do something that I will do for like 3 days and then wait a whole year to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do that. And again, it's not really been bad experiences that I've had with the community. It's just that a lot of the people are very, um, they get. I don't know how to say this without being mean to them.
Okay.
They get into your personal space a lot, and I don't really like that.
Okay.
Um,
So
a lot of
it's a thing about setting boundaries.
Yeah, I'll be honest, a lot of people who are furries don't have the social skills to understand what boundaries are. I don't exactly blame them because they're a furry. No, I
Yeah.
don't exactly blame them because, well, a lot of people don't know what personal space is.
Absolutely.
But people who just become furries just tend to be not as socially adept. Uh, it's not really me being mean to them. It's just an observation that I've had, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people would say this as well. Both in and out of the community,
Yeah.
um, they just don't really know what personal space is very much. And with the amount of people who just sort of get a bit too, they get into your personal space. You tell them, "Hey, get the fuck out my personal space,"
Yeah.
and then they respect it for like 5 minutes and then forget. I don't really get mad at them for it. It's just I just don't really like it. It happens a bit too often, and you hear too much about the bad side of furries to really want to stay in the community. To be fair,
Okay.
I know that's not really a good sort of perspective to have on it, but I just can't be asked to deal with it half the time. I would rather look at the positive things about it.
Yeah.
So I just stay out of it to keep my own stuff that I see as positive
Yeah.
instead of looking at their stuff, which can be very negative sometimes. This doesn't mean that I don't at all interact with the furry community.
Yeah.
It's just that I tend to stay away from it until I see something that I actually care about, and then I'll dabble into the area or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would go as usually when people ask me, I'm like, I'm a furry, but I hate furries. That's usually how I present it when people ask. Oh, are you a furry? I'm like, oh yeah, I am a furry, but I hate furries. So,
Okay.
um, I honestly, personally, I really love to take. I It's not really good, but I love to take the piss out of the furry community a lot. Um, it's not good. It really isn't. But as
Okay.
long as everyone is having as long as everyone is joking, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want as long as everyone knows it's a joke. As soon as someone is unhappy with the joke or you're going too far with it, obviously you should just stop. You
Yeah.
should, just be like, oh yeah, I meant it as a joke. I didn't mean for it to upset you, and then you move on. Like you don't stay into it. You just move on from there. that's it. You keep going. You don't just kill the mood like just because you made a off joke.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I've had people a lot go at me for being a furry,
Yeah.
and I just don't understand it. I just sort of sit there and I'm just like, okay, uh, a lot of the time. But it did take a while for me to get into that kind of mentality of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm going a little bit off topic with this one, but I feel like it's a little important.
Yeah. Definitely.
With with how people negatively react to people being a furry,
Mhm.
and people who positively react to it, you kind of have to keep it in the sense that no matter what people say, um, it's your opinion on something that isn't hurting people. It's your likeness to something that isn't hurting people. So in like short, you just need to not care what other people think.
Yeah.
Obviously, if someone says something positive, you can, whether it be about your characters or just being like, "Oh, you're awesome, you're a furry, I love furries." Some people are just like that, and you just have to be like, "Yes, I also love." You just have to relish in that positivity for as much as you can,
Yeah.
because it's so easy for people to turn around and see some furry profile picture and be like, "Oh my god, it's disgusting!" It happens so often, and I say it happens so often. It doesn't happen as often as you think. But funny enough, mentioning this, it,
Yeah.
it happened like an hour before the fucking
Oh
before the
wow.
fucking podcast. And I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Because I hadn't really had anyone come to me personally for like months, and I still haven't. This wasn't to me personally,
Okay.
but someone on a Discord server just said something really weird about furries and then got kicked 30 seconds later. So yeah, good job, idiot. um, another kind of recent thing. I don't know why this happened. This is just kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
Like, I randomly got a comment on my Steam profile from someone who had never played with before, uh, which was very weird. And all they said was "disgusting furry," and that's it. I don't know where I spoke to them, where I met them, because their name insinuates that they play Dead by Daylight, and I
Yeah.
hadn't played Dead by Daylight in that week at all. So I have no idea who the fuck this person is. They just said something weird. They tried to insult me, and everyone in my friends are just laughing at him because they're just making a fool of themselves. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what you have to. That's kind of what I like to focus on. Some people make a fool of themselves because of it, and to be fair, I will laugh at them because their ignorance is astounding. If they think this badly of furries, they probably think this negatively of other things as well. Things that are more important, like racism. I would say racism is way more important than someone making fun of furries. Like I don't like it, the disparity is massive. I would say. If someone's being racist and someone's being a mean to furries,
Yeah.
I would say absolutely destroy that person who's being racist.
Well,
But
definitely.
obviously, I believe that like people should try and convince them to stop being an asshole first before being like, okay, get out. Um, so personally, I'd be like, hey, just be respectful that people have different views or different skin color or whatever,
Yeah.
um, different gender or whatever, I don't know, whatever it is. Um, and if they are continuing to be a problem, you just remove them from the situation. Uh, and just be like, look, you can't stay here if you're just going to be an asshole about this because these things don't matter. They shouldn't matter to anyone. The fact that you're bringing it up is very disgusting, and you should just stop. Just stop. Like, it doesn't matter to anyone that someone is this or that. It shouldn't. What should matter is that you respect their opinion or you respect their views, their identity, or whatever, and be like, okay, your name is this, or your gender is this, or whatever people want to be called. I don't care if someone really genuinely wants to be called an Apache attack helicopter. I will do it because A, I think it's funny. No, I shouldn't say that. Because A, it's their opinion, whatever, and B, they're
It
not
doesn't
really
hurt
hurting anyone.
anyone.
So yeah, they're
Yeah.
not hurting anyone. So who the fuck am I to say, hey, you can't do this. You gotta do this because I said so. Like, I'm not God
Yeah.
of this world. I'm God of my world, but I'm not God of this world.
Yeah. Sure.
So I can't really shoot someone for having a different opinion, basically. In the short of it, I know I went on a tangent there, but I felt it was a bit important to say that people should just stop being an asshole for no reason. But obviously, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take a very long time
I
before
mean,
anything
that's
changes.
a super old issue after all.
Yeah, it is a
Like,
super old
it
issue.
started probably way before we started writing stories about it.
Yeah, and I think it's improving. To be fair, things were
It is
definitely a lot worse.
definitely.
Things were definitely a lot worse years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's definitely improving. What I don't like is how people are turning to the idea that people are like some snowflake stuff. I don't understand that sort of outlook on it.
Hmm?
Um, like the moment you say, "Hey, that I didn't like that comment," they're like, "Oh my god, you're a snowflake!" Like, "Oh, you think you're so special?" And I'm like, "No, they just asked you not to do something.
Yeah.
They just said that this upset them. That's it. That's not being a snowflake. That's just them saying they didn't like this comment. That's it."
People started to communicate their opinion on things being said a lot more than they used to, which also led to the change. I
Yeah,
would say, but I can also like I can see basically where the idea comes from. That they say, oh yeah, this is a snowflake behavior because people communicate nowadays if they're feeling offended or hurt, and
yeah,
it wasn't like that in the past because it wasn't normal to do so. Like it wasn't the general gist that people should communicate if they're upset about something.
yeah. And from my experience, I haven't had too many people that are around my age that are um negative about these things.
Yeah,
To be fair, and this is just from my observation, a lot of older people are kind of having this perspective, and
sure.
some of the younger people are as well, but they're young, can't shoot them for it because they're young.
Yeah,
Um, they're still learning, and they're young, so you just need to just say to them, "Hey, don't do that because it's kind of shitty." Like you'll learn in the future that like this is this is a terrible thing to do, and you shouldn't be doing this, and you're gonna kick yourself in the teeth when you're older. Like, why did I say that?
yeah,
I've done it. Everyone's done it. People who dig up 5-year-old Twitter fucking things have done it. So, which also I think is stupid. Don't do that.
yeah.
Why? Who the fuck cares what someone said 5 years ago? It was probably okay to say that 5 years ago. So,
True.
yeah. That's just my outlook on that.
But like you said something earlier that I found a bit funny. You said like if someone offers you a fursuit, you would go to a convention, and honestly, I would do the same.
Honestly, like, especially if it's tailor made to my character, like I would say, hell yeah, dude, let's go. It'll be super hard to use because I don't know how the fuck you're gonna make a fursuit with 3 mechanical parts and 1 non-mechanical part. But
Just
go nuts.
chop off your leg. What's the issue?
Just remove my legs. It'll be fine.
Well, I
Um,
mean, I guess you can make it look like that. But like, honestly, I would go to a convention. I'd say if someone offered me a fursuit, I would like to experience that.
I just think it'd be super fun to do.
Yeah, probably.
I I
And
don't know
like
if I would enjoy it, but I would definitely like to try it for sure.
another thing
But
you said is like
yeah, but
it's people that look forward to like that one event every year and where they can like live being that character, and that is very similar to people that visit, like, for example, metal festivals, which is a scene I do know. And it's literally people that live every year to visit Wacken, and then it's like a year of depression until Wacken is back again. It is kind of similar in that regard.
whole year of depression until then. Uh, yeah, no, I mean, to just put this out there, obviously, I am a human, so I was depressed at some point. I
Yeah,
assume everyone was. As of the last like year, I've basically not been sad for like a whole year, so that's pretty cool. Um, I'd say a whole year. It's more like 6 months. I would say more like 6 months, but
mhm,
I've just come out of this low low point in my life.
yeah,
Uh, I'm at this new point where I have 2 jobs that I absolutely love,
yeah,
which I believe I'm super lucky to have even one job that I love, let alone two.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, and the people that I work for are just insanely amazing. They are very, very understanding of anything that's going on. And what's the other thing? Um, and like I had like therapy for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they were super helpful. They helped me understand like the crap I was going through, and I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like pretty much in the short of it. Obviously it's not that easy, but that's basically how it turned out with me. It's just like, hey, this is this and that, like blah blah blah. And I was like, that checks out. That checks out. So ever since then, I've been a lot more positive on everything.
Yeah.
Usually, when I think of someone who's a furry, to be fair, I will think that they're depressed, which is not a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
But it's just But to be fair, every human I think is depressed in some way or another. I'm just sort of in that lucky point right now where I'm very happy. I rarely ever get sad. I only will do for like a few hours.
Yeah.
I'm at like a high point of my life right now. So there's just
I'm
like
glad to hear it.
it's just I don't want to go too into it because it kind of makes me sound like I'm rubbing it in people's faces, which I don't really want to do.
It's all good. It's okay to be proud of your achievements.
Yeah, like that's kind of it. I'm proud of my current situation because I'm just super happy.
Yeah.
And there's more positive things to come as well. So like I can't complain about anything right now, pretty much. But I don't remember what the question was. So I don't remember what the question was. To be fair,
Uh,
was there even a question, or did I just start
uh,
going on a tangent about something?
I think we just ended up there. We started with metal festivals, that it's similar to
Oh
going
yeah,
to like a fur
right.
convention.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get that. I get people live for an event, a yearly event. I
Yeah.
personally don't. People live for it, and people actually, people who do fursuits obviously work throughout the year to um, change their suit or make a new one for whatever reason for the new festival. I get the person I mentioned like at the beginning, that person
Yeah.
called Beauty of the Base. Um, they do so much work for their suit, and I don't know if they do it on their own. I think they do have help from other people, but
Yeah.
not 100% sure on that one. But they whatever the hell they've done to their fursuit is insane, and the way they make it is also insane.
Yeah.
I look up to this person oddly on how they actually create their fursuit because they create their character in this very very awesome way. And I'm 100% sure they have their own story about their own character. Most people do. Not
Yeah.
everyone does. Most people do though. And people who have these massive work characters is what I'll say for it. High maintenance, I guess, would be the easiest way to say it. These characters with a lot of different things going for them. They usually have a story with them. That's not to say simple characters are boring. I have simple characters. They have stories behind them. But I'll be honest. I do focus on the three main ones that I have. And people have stories for everything, pretty much, and they have their own reasons for things as well. Like I have my own reasons for mechanical parts on the character. I have my own reasons for this other character being a double character. I don't know how to explain that one because it's kind of new. But it's just a character that has another character attached to them.
Okay.
So it's basically two characters in one. Think of it as like what's a good way to think about it?
Is it like a conjoined twin, or is it?
No, it's
a mental second character.
No. So how it works is there's an android, and the skeleton inside the android is its own separate character.
Oh, okay.
So that's the easiest way I can explain it. And there's a lot of other things to go with it as well. Like obviously both of them can't be active at the same time because it takes too much power and blah blah blah. Other stuff. But basically the android is the good guy that doesn't want to kill people, and the endoskeleton inside is like, haha, murder. So don't let the haha murder out, basically.
Okay.
But it's super. I love to make things that are very different, very, I guess, exotic. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. That just makes it sound fancy when it's not really. I like to make characters that are very different and try to make it so they can't be related to other characters very
Yeah.
much. I just like to have the idea of having a very unique character, and the whole thing with these three main characters that I have. One of them I haven't even mentioned yet, but the whole idea of having one of them with some mechanical parts and this electrical stuff that I haven't spoken about, and a character that has a very biblical angel kind of look to them, and another one that is a double character who's an android with a very murderous endoskeleton inside of them.
Yeah.
They're just very different, and if I'm wrong, I would love to see another character that actually would be similar to or looks like one of my characters, because I'm interested in these sort of things.
Okay.
I like to um, I like to see what other people do, basically, especially if they're similar to my things. I love talking about other people's OCs. Whenever other people mention it, I love hearing about their stuff. Kind of because I like to know what other people do, because I don't know the words. This is the one part of furries that I do like. It
Okay.
is messing with other people's characters. Well, I say messing. It's just talking about their characters and sharing the ideas, right?
Yeah.
A lot of my OCs do originate from a point where I was sort of shooting ideas backwards and forwards with other people,
Yeah.
or a fixation, a fixation or something. The double character was from a fixation that I had with another person's character, and I adapted it into something that is towards my own idea, and obviously I wanted to make it as original as possible because I don't really like copying other people's stuff. It's not a bad thing to take ideas from other people's stuff. Um, just don't copy it,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah.
No plagiarizing, basically.
Yeah, it's
Um,
basically the same in like every kind of writing.
yeah, just don't be an arsehole about it. And if someone is a bit upset that you've basically plagiarized their work, just change it.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. It is not very difficult to come up with a different way to make the same character, which is kind of what I've done with the double character. It's just in essence, it is another way that I've created another character, but I've just changed
Okay.
it so it doesn't look like them, and I didn't even know any of the personality of their character. I just made my own with my own stuff. So I basically took their idea and used my resources to make a different idea
Fair.
that's got the same kind of I don't know the word. I don't know the word for it,
The
but
same twist? Like
yeah, the same twist, I guess, would be the best way to do it. The same twist, yeah. That would be the best way to do it. Put it, yeah.
Okay. So we got some questions in chat again. So
Yeah.
I think we were talking about the furry community and you staying away from it. Is it the furry community you stay away from, or is it a specific one that
It's
you
pretty
want to
much
stay?
all of it.
All of it.
I'll
Okay.
be honest. It's pretty much all of it. There are some aspects that I do like to look at still. Again, I do like to look at other people's characters that they've made. But otherwise, I just tend to stay away from it. People who make cool stuff, obviously, I'm going to look at it because they've made cool stuff. I have a great appreciation for artists and people who make stuff, animate stuff, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I have a massive appreciation towards it. I pretty much eat that shit up because I love it. But otherwise, I tend to just not interact with furries. If someone is a furry, to be honest, I'm less likely to be friends with them because of just I just don't mix well with um, people who have their personalities.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I just the typical furry personality is just not one that I do well with. So I just don't have many furry friends.
Okay.
And I don't really like the people who have that sort of personality. It's not because of them. It's just literally. I think it's more to do with the fact that people who become furries are like a certain type of people. Uh, you wouldn't think of a jock type person to be a furry.
Let me Google what a jock is. Or
A
explain it.
jock is a jock is like a person who's just an arsehole, basically.
Okay.
Like a bully, I guess.
Okay.
But more towards the side of will probably break your leg to be a bully than the side of just calling you names.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty much. That's the
So
difference between that.
so
But
the
yeah,
bully that want to break your leg is most likely not a furry.
yeah,
Understand? Okay.
probably.
I got
Doesn't
that.
mean they won't be a furry, but unlikely, I guess. But it's just more towards people who are like less understanding of themselves are probably going to be more of a furry. And not to be mean, but those people tend to be not very good at social things. And people who are not good at social things are not people who I do well with.
Okay.
But only when they are poking into my personal space. There are people who are not good at social things but are very introverted instead, and
Yeah.
those people I actually do very well with because I can carry a conversation very well.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the conversation is. As long as we have a topic of interest with each other, I can carry a conversation very well with them.
Nice.
Um, but for the most part, people who poke into people's comfort zones to be fair, they tend to be furries. So I just less likely for me to be like friends with them. So I
Uh,
tend to stay away from them because I don't really like it. I know some people do love it. Some people love having their personal space poked around. I just don't. So I don't. I just don't ever
Absolutely a
with them.
fine thing to say.
Yeah.
That you want to keep your personal space. Like another thing that kind of resembles me, as you've been talking about like OCs and all that, it reminds me a bit of like the whole Dungeons and Dragons world.
I guess that is a very, very good way of putting things. People make Dungeons and Dragons OCs,
Yeah,
so and obviously they make characters to play the game with. That
exactly.
some people have them separate, some people have them intertwined with each other. People who make OCs for Dungeons and Dragons, I tell them to go forth and continue because I think it's awesome. That's what some people do with that.
This
Um,
could be actually a market niche, honestly. Make a
it
pen
could
and
be
paper furry game.
very good. Yes, let's go.
I
People,
could see that being successful.
I mean, some people have what's the word? Made more games that have like furry characters in it, like a Gunfire Reborn. Pretty much every character that you can play as is basically a furry.
Hmm?
I'm not like a dog guy with who can dual wield guns or whatever. Like yeah. But I don't know if they've actually made anything Dungeons and Dragons related. I do know that my style of writing um can be related to Dungeons and Dragons a little bit. But that's only when um it's me and another person, not just me writing my story.
Like I
Which
got
is
reminded of when you said like your character wakes up, like the limbs are replaced, and I was like, hey, this could be a start of an interesting quest there.
uh, it's it's a bit weird because I had to figure out a reason to take a character, remove them from their current planet, put them somewhere where they don't recognize, remove their memories, make it hard for them to walk. They're also young. I had all these criteria that I had to go through, and I'm just like, how do I do that?
Yeah,
Because this is supposed to be the story of how this character that I have became how they are now.
yeah,
And I started it uh, when I really became a furry, which was around when I was 15.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, character starts at 15, goes all the way up to whatever my current age is, or whatever age I decide to stop at. And that's how I would structure the story.
Yeah.
But to think about it like that, you have to make a story that goes 6 years long. It's not. I don't know if I could do that. So at some point, I'd have to stop somewhere around where I think it would stop. So somewhere around 19, I guess. So
Yeah.
falling, but I still think it's a bit difficult to do. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. I kind of have a beginning done. I just haven't written it out. I could go through it, but it's a bit long and it's not really related.
let's do that another time, maybe in private rather. Because I don't know, I like it. Like it is. I think it is a cool thing to do. Like writing your own character and like writing the story behind it. I think it's a fun pastime thing, and especially to mean something. I don't think a lot of
people. Yeah, I do know that. Well, I don't think a lot of people do it, but a good portion of people. Or say, sorry, I should say it like this. I think people make stories about their characters a lot. I just don't think they go hard on it like I'm trying to do. I don't know anyone else who's like got a furry main character, and are trying to go this hard on it. I know people have written it the other way around, with like fan fictions for My Little Pony and shit, but and I only follow one now.
Yeah.
That's the only content of My Little Pony that I actually consume because it's a story someone else is writing. Yeah, and I do like to read other people's stories, obviously, because it helps with my ideas.
Sure.
Obviously, of course it would. Same with games and all that, because they also help with my ideas. And it's something I actually never really spoke about. When it comes to writing, stuff that is more related to horror or creating mechanical beasts or anything of the such, is stuff that I actually do better in than anything else. It's the best area I do.
Yeah.
Of creating horror, uncomfortable situations, or mechanical things that shouldn't work but do. And I just have a lot of backlog on it that I could go through. Obviously not related, but it's just something that I thought would be interesting to put out there. Because the only writing I've mentioned is me writing unfriendly things. So I thought I'd throw that bit out there that I'm better at something else.
Yeah, I'm usually at some point always asking to how can people keep up with you and your work. I'm not sure if we want to mention an unfamily friendly game here, but is there any like do you have a Twitter that you update or something?
Not yet. I will do something at some point.
Okay.
But currently it's still not public at all, and I tend to keep it like that, maybe for a little while still. I'm not sure for how long. It could be a few years, it could be a few months, I don't know. It really depends on what I can be bothered with doing.
Sure.
And I have a bit of a weird mentality of if I don't start with this, if I don't start with a community, then I'm just not motivated to do any of it. Obviously, that's not how things are going to work. I do need to start at something before I get a community, because otherwise there's nothing to do to start with, obviously. But I'm trying to get out of that mentality right now, so that I can just write for me and not for other people, which should be what it should be. That should be the process already. That I focus on me and not other people, because at the end of the day, what I'm doing is more important than what other people are doing. It sounds a bit mean, but it's kind of true. Like you don't do things for other people. You do things because you have your own gain out of it somewhat. It could be a small gain.
Yeah.
It could even be something like you gain more friendship with that person. But at the end of the day, you're doing it because you get something out of it. If you don't get something out of it, you're not really going to do it. You're not going to like doing it anyway.
That's the age-old question of if altruism actually exists. But
Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna shoot someone for it if they say
mm,
I'm doing this because for them. Like I don't like it, but I'm doing this for them. Like yeah, you are doing it because you're helping them, but you're also doing it because you gain something out of it. That's just my opinion on it. Everyone has their opinion on it. But to be honest, it's not related, so I'm not going to go too far into it.
all right.
Yeah.
So, is there any questions you have, or is there any questions in chat left? Because like I personally think I learned a lot today. Like I had no idea, and now I feel like I have a pretty decent idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything myself.
Hmm?
I could, uh, just because I can, and no one can stop me right now. I could just say, the other main character that I have that I never really spoke about, that I only really said that they have a biblical angel kind of look to them.
Yeah.
They recently were reworked into this look to them. This very biblical angel kind of look. They're not a furry at all, but it's a character that I relate to more than the furry character that I actually have now.
Okay.
Um, so just because I'm a furry, it doesn't mean that I want to, uh, push this specific sort of thing. To be honest, if furries stopped existing tomorrow, I wouldn't exactly care very much. I would shrug, be like, "That's a shame," and move on. To be fair, like, it's not something I have too much of a care about.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll be a little sad it's gone, but I'm not gonna kick a massive fuss about it because if they stopped existing, then I wouldn't I wouldn't
Yeah.
know it existed in the first place. So,
Well,
um,
that's always a fair thing to say.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't really change too much of my life. I know for other people it would be massive and drastic change on them, but for me, uh, it wouldn't change too much of my life. I would just rewrite some things and about it. Not really too much of a change for me. Um, yeah, something I did as well. People do like to, they don't just make an OC and then do nothing with it. People who make OCs, they do things with them. They don't just leave it as it is. You have this character, you're gonna mess around with them, obviously. And I have a lot of lore and crap based on my own characters, which is stupid. It's stupidly long. I'll be honest. It's way too stupidly long. But I like to give people, I like to give my characters something that makes it so they're not just there. They
Yeah.
have a use. They do things, um, and they have a place in the world that I've made for them. And they can interact with other people's characters, which I feel like is a very important part. Even though I don't like um, other furries very much, uh, it doesn't mean I can't interact with other people. So, like, not in the furry community. It doesn't mean I can't interact with them. So, obviously, I had this second character made, this biblical angel type character, who was created on a fixation, um, but turned into something that wasn't as such, and it was as a character I've grown super attached to over the last few years that I've had them and made them.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I am way more attached to this character than I am my current furry OC.
Mm,
Uh, and again, they had a recent rework as well, which I only recently got a commission back from, and I absolutely love how they look.
mm.
Uh, just and the way that they work as well in my world is just I don't know. Sometimes I kind of am up my own arse at appreciating my own stuff, but I mean you kind of have to appreciate your own things sometimes.
Absolutely.
Um,
Like each time I
and
listen to my playlist, I'm like, damn, that's another good song.
yeah, damn, that's a fucking amazing job I've done there. God damn, I should give myself a fucking pat on the back.
Sometimes you need to.
Yeah, no, sometimes you do need to though, and I guess one of the last things to say, just for everyone to take away,
Yeah.
would just be like, people have their own shit they're going through. and people cope in different ways. People who are furries use it as a coping mechanism as well. People who make other OCs or anything really, people use it as a coping mechanism a lot. I did. I don't really as much anymore, but it still does help a lot. I would say it still helps a lot, just not as much as it did before. And you don't, if you don't like someone's character, it's okay to criticize people, I think, but if they don't ask for it, just don't say anything. If they ask for critique, sure, go ahead. Say like, you could do this, but don't be like, this part looks stupid. Fuck you. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's really shitty. I haven't really had people do that to me, but I do know other people that had that done to them. I'll be honest, I think people don't do it to me because I have very different looking characters, so they can't get a very, very accurate mental opinion on them, if that makes sense. Because they look so wacky sometimes, they can't just be like, well, they get stuck. So they're like, It's not really something I should be praising, but I think it's funny. So, but yeah, people just don't assault someone for having a different looking character or a weird looking character or something like that. People have weird characters all the time, and if it looks weird to you, just be like, cool, move on. You'll find something you'll like to look at and fixate on it at some point, probably. So don't like focus too much onto a character that you don't like the look of. Like, just don't bother people. Just don't bother people. Is what I'm trying to say. In long words, don't bother people who don't ask to be bothered.
That's a very, very good takeaway message, I would say.
just don't bother people in general.
Unless they're asking to be bothered, let's not do it. All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for the talk. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of things.
Thank you for having me. I get to talk about a thing that I haven't spoken about for like a year and a half now.
Oh, that's also cool. All right. Thank you for being here. And
again, thank you for inviting me, mate.
Absolutely. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on episode 5 of Mental Perspectives. I certainly did enjoy the talk, and I hope you did too. It would greatly help me if you could rate this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you hear it. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.